One would have to think these stray birds foolish, for why in the world should they be flying in 36-degree weather against a brisk 15-mile-per-hour wind when they could have flown south long ago? Perhaps they hovered above Cleveland's Municipal Stadium for the same reason as these young novice photographers, to get a glimpse at handsome Brian Sipe and his Cleveland Browns, a team that it seems has gone south themselves this season. Sipe was last season's most valuable player, and the Browns were last year's division champs. But thus far in 1981, head coach Sam Ratigliano's club has yet to truly awaken, having won only 5 games and 12 tries coming in. Last year, the Browns were known as the Cardiac Kids, a team noted for exciting and thrilling comebacks in the final seconds of critical games. This season, there simply have been no such heroics. Today, there comes down the Municipal Stadium tunnel a truly outstanding football team to do battle with Cleveland, a team that in all likelihood will capture the Central Division crown that the Browns won last season. They are the Cincinnati Bengals, a club crammed full of #1 draft choices, bolstered by a maturing defense and fueled by the second highest scoring offense in all of football. It's a battle for the bragging rights in Ohio, and plenty of Cincy fans have made the 200-mile journey upstate to see their Bengals in action. Perhaps the reason why Cincinnati has left the division cellar for the penthouse spot is their coach, firm disciplinarian Forrest Gregg. Gregg institutes fines when required and demands that his players wear ties on the road. He is a fair man, though, and his players admire and respect him. One such player is quarterback Ken Anderson, and while Gregg is a shoo-in for the AFC's Coach of the Year, veteran Kenny is a likely candidate for the league's Comeback Player of the Year and perhaps its most valuable player. Anderson has been deadly accurate all season long, and one of his favorite receivers is rookie Chris Collinsworth. Collinsworth has already caught 46 passes for 5 touchdowns, and he has sprinter's speed. He, Isaac Curtis, Dan Ross, and David Verser represent a receiving corps as good as any in the league. The Bengals have a new look this year, the look of a champion, and their rather peculiar-looking fans are eager for them to nail down their 10th victory of the season, moving them one step closer to the playoffs. From Cleveland, it's the Central Division Showdown on the NFL Game of the Week. When you play the Bengals, you better remember one thing. Do not turn the ball over. Or if you do, you will realize just how hungry and opportunistic they truly are. Number 26, Dino Hall, failed to remember early in the first quarter. Hall had the ball securely tucked away, and he was carrying it with the arm closest to the sideline, something coaches scream about till they're blue in the face. The fumble was simply the result of a perfect play by number 52, Tom Dinkle, who stripped Hall of the ball. Cincinnati recovered on the Cleveland 11-yard line, and like the Bengals have proven all season long, if you fumble it away, you gotta pay. Bruising Pete Johnson, number 46, took it in from 5 yards out. The game was less than 5 minutes old, and already the Bengals had forced a turnover and parlayed it into 7 points. You'd think that Cleveland would be a bit more careful with the football next time. Unfortunately, they weren't. Mike Pruitt's fumble again gave the visitors great field position. After the last turnover, it took them 3 plays to score. After this opportunity, it only took them 2. With a first down at the Brown 39-yard line, Anderson fired his second touchdown of the quarter. A beauty to Chris Collinsworth, who outleaped no less than 3 Cleveland defenders. Cleveland had 2 turnovers. The Bengals had 2 touchdowns. In each of their first two possessions, Anderson had tossed a pair of scores. Last week, Anderson and his core of deep men shredded the NFL's best defense for 396 yards through the air as they made mincemeat of the Denver Broncos. Coming into this, the 13th game of the season, they had tallied 330 points, second best in the league. Halfway through the first quarter, Cincinnati had forged a 14-point advantage. It has been said that if one stares into the eyes of Lyle Alzado like Medusa, one will instantly turn to stone. Number 77 is a fierce pass rusher and a very physical defensive end. And when he's on, he can single-handedly change the course of the game. But when number 77 assumed his evil stance and set his sights on Ken Anderson, it was he and his fellow defenders who were turned to stone, for Anderson's quick two-step drop and marksman-like accuracy burnt the Brown defense as if they were standing still. Anderson completed 6 in a row on an 80-yard drive downfield. And with mean faces but empty hearts, the Cleveland faithful implored the Browns to make a stand. Facing a second and goal from the Browns' 7-yard line, Cool Kenny calmly fired his 7th completion in a row, a bullet right into the arms of Chris Collinsworth. Collinsworth's second touchdown catch of the first half gave the Bengals a 3-touchdown lead early in the second quarter. If the game was not to become a total blowout, Cleveland would have to move the football. Cincinnati boasts the fewest turnovers in the AFC, so Brian Sipe knew he couldn't wait for a break. He'd have to make things happen himself. Sipe did just that by hitting number 83, Ricky Feature, for a 22-yard gain. Feature's catch moved the Browns out to the Bengal 45-yard line. Then Sipe looked to Ozzie Newsome, number 82, to move them closer to their first score of the game. Newsome is having a sensational year, and this catch was made possible by a perfectly thrown pass between linebacker and defensive back coverage. Sipe threw just as Newsome made his cut, and the connection was good for 27 yards. Three plays later, Sipe called on Newsome once more. Newsome's apparent touchdown catch was called back because of a holding penalty on former All-Pro Joe DeLamielleure, number 64. Look carefully from an end zone view and you'll see that DeLamielleur's first block was clean, but his second was not. Sipe found himself in trouble. He trailed by 3 touchdowns, and now he faced a 3rd and goal from the Bengal 30. These are times that try men's souls. Sipe rose to the challenge. Ricky Feature began the drive, so it was only appropriate that he finish it. Cleveland was on the board as Sipe simply threw another perfect pass. Feature had only a half step on nickelback John Simmons, number 25, but the ball was arched perfectly over the arm of Simmons and into the hands of Feature, who beat bump and run coverage down the sideline. The touchdown cut the Bengal lead to 21-7, but a little over 3 minutes remained in the quarter. Brown fans wondered whether Anderson, who had finished the day with 26 of 32 for 235 yards, had time to move the Bengals in for another score. quarterback gets a hot hand, it becomes difficult to defend against him. But when Ken Anderson, twice the NFL's passing champion, gets a hot hand, it is simply an impossible task. Again, Anderson connected for 5 completions in a row. But when he had them down to the Browns' 25, number 57, Clay Matthews, said, "Enough's enough." Unfortunately for Matthews and the Browns, Anderson had not quite had enough. He fired his 6th straight to Isaac Curtis, good for 22 yards, when Cincinnati needed 18 for a first down. With only 42 seconds left in the half, Anderson revealed yet another dimension. Not only was his aim perfect, but his mobility provided yet another facet. Number 83, M.L. Harris, caught Anderson's 4th touchdown pass of the half, finally bringing to a close a truly brilliant 30-minute passing clinic. Without doubt, Ken Anderson is the best quarterback in the NFL thus far in 1981. He was the league's best in 1975 and 1976. And like a fine wine, at age 32, he is simply getting better. Anderson owns every Bengal passing record and the league mark for the lowest interception percentage in NFL history. All the wacky Bengal fans loved it and hoped for more of the same in the second half. A 3-touchdown lead is generally a pretty solid pad, but against the explosive Browns, 21 points is certainly not an insurmountable advantage. Offense helped Cincinnati dominate the Browns in the first half, and defense would win the game in the second session. A fierce pass rush continuously harassed Brian Sipe into hurried throws, broken plays, and costly quarterback sacks. At long last, the Bengals' young line of top picks, Eddie Edwards, Wilson Whitley, and Ross Browner, are playing up to their capabilities. Another reason why Cincinnati is now a first-place team. Joining the pass-rushing fray are veteran ends Mike St. Clair and Gary Burley, and linebackers like Bo Harris and Glenn Cameron. Nearly 18 minutes went by in the second half before the Browns would score again. But this didn't mean total disaster for Cleveland, because their defense shut the Bengals out for over 23 minutes themselves. The third quarter ended with the Browns still trailing 28-7, but they clearly gained the momentum when they put together a smart offensive drive in the final period. Cincinnati allowed Sipe the short passing game, and he took it with quick tosses to wide receiver Reggie Rucker and running back Greg Pruitt, number 34. Fullback Mike Pruitt got some blocking help, and the Browns were in Bengal territory for the first time in a long while. Sipe then followed the safe escort of guard Joe DeLamalure on a rare rushing attempt, and the Browns closed in on a score. Mike Pruitt ended Cleveland's best drive of the day with a short plunge, and the Browns had the first points of the second half. Over 12 minutes remained, and Cleveland trailed by a 28-14 margin. In the Cardiac Kid days of old, that would have not seemed like much of a margin to make up. But the Browns don't pull as many rabbits out of hats these days. Ken Anderson is the reigning offensive wizard of the AFC Central, and he proved it quickly by answering Cleveland's march with a cleverly executed drive that would put any Browns' victory hopes into the twilight zone. Tight end Dan Ross is having the kind of season that could make him an all-pro as he beat the Browns for several key catches. Then Anderson let oversized fullback Pete Johnson handle the proceedings for a while. Johnson's 11-yard run for a score killed any hopes of a Browns comeback. Even with a missed extra point, Cincinnati knew its fifth consecutive win was all but certain. And another 100-yard day from Pete Johnson was one reason why. It now seemed wisest for Cleveland to play out the string and hope for no further incident. But to Brian Sipes' misfortune, such was not the case as the Bengal defense kept in close pursuit. Sipe was down, and a second look at the play shows why. No one picked up blitzing linebacker Reggie Williams, number 57, who had a clear shot at Sipe. Sipe was forced at the sidelines for the rest of the game, an act that proved symbolic to the Bengals. With Cleveland's leader finished for the day, there was now no chance for a miracle. For a player like number 72, defensive end Mike St. Clair, this moment was particularly significant. St. Clair had once been with Cleveland, but had been discarded. Now he returned to his former haunts as part of what is arguably the best team in football. After forcing the fumble that sent Sipe to the sidelines, the Bengals didn't have far to travel for another score. Inside the 20, Pete Johnson proved to be the best mode of transportation. Johnson's third touchdown of the game brought on the call to clear the benches. Reserves began to pour in on both sides, one of them being Cleveland's southpaw backup quarterback Paul McDonald. McDonald clicked immediately with Ricky Feature for a big game. Mike Pruitt picked up a few more yards on the ground, and then McDonald looked for and found Reggie Rucker for a play that had 6 points written all over it. But this just wasn't Cleveland's day. The Browns finally did score when McDonald spotted Greg Pruitt out of the backfield, cutting the margin to 41-21. Another look at the score reveals that Cincinnati's Bo Harris, number 53, and number 27, Brian Hicks, both were blitzing. This left Pruitt with only one man to beat, which he did. With little time remaining, Cincy sub Jack Thompson replaced Ken Anderson, and the throw-in Samoan was rudely treated on a sack by defensive end Thomas Brown, number 97. But it was far too little and far too late. The game was over, and Cincinnati had themselves a big win. There wasn't much you could find fault with concerning the Bengals' performance in their whipping of the Browns. The passing was brilliant, the running impressive, the defense physical. For head coach Forrest Gregg, this was all important as his team battles for its first division championship since 1973. But perhaps most significant was that this was Gregg's first win over the Browns. Cleveland was the first team to hire Gregg as a head coach, only to fire him a few years later. Some said he was too rough on the players, but many Browns athletes still have great respect for Gregg. And why shouldn't everyone? In less than 2 seasons, Forrest Gregg has taken a team that has often been accused of lacking heart and turned it into a class act of the NFL. People used to wonder why Cincinnati, with all its talent, didn't win more games. Not anymore. Forrest Gregg, a Pro Football Hall of Famer at offensive line, is now achieving new goals at the coaching level. So far, it has been the best example of leadership in the NFL this season. When Bengal loyalists proclaim their team number 1, it's not just empty boasting. They just might be exactly right.